Hey everybody, how you all doing? And I see something a little odd here. Hang on, I got to go to style and see about fixing. There we go. It had me compressed just a little bit, looking a little odd here. All right, first let's go over to the comment section so I can make sure I welcome everybody in. We got a lot rolling in here. So first one in was the members of Crew 1351. And starting out, they had two guys and one girl there. And then Phelan Clan Wolf came in. Froze for a second. Phelan Clan Wolf came in, also a member of the crew, but he's off on his own somewhere else right now. And it looks like they're going to have another one of the girls coming in here shortly. Rebel Candace is in here today. Woohoo. Hey, Tammy. Lee Argent is here. And Kraken Grind is here. And all right, looks like that there. And we got, we had some come in and a bunch go out. Okay, let's double check. Yeah, okay. Some just stepped in to say hi and then slipped right on out the back door. All righty. It's take that and move over here to the shared screen. I'm gonna jump up there to that corner. Ta-da! I found out that I can do this oddball instead of being down at the bottom or off to the side and compressing everything. I can put myself up out of the way so the banner's not in front of my face. So at least you can see me a little bit better and watch me struggle as I get tongue-tied. All right, so we're going to be starting off with Chapter 11. And for as I just going to try to do a quick recap so people aren't totally lost. Tell you what, let me go ahead and jump this back up so I can read the important stuff. And the computer's running slow here. There we go. Introduction. The world has survived many disasters over existence. Some have been called extinction level events. What's going on here? Oh, that's shifting now. I get that with it. There we go. And others cataclysmic. In the theory of the multiverse, these events can cause, and some believe have caused, splitting timelines or a creation of alternate dimensions or universes. Sometimes these events can cause a single split or other times multiple splits. Some believe that people's visions and glimpses of these other some believe that people's visions are glimpses of these other timelines. Others believe that some novelists somehow tap into these timelines for inspiration for their stories, and some believe that the stories are a history of certain events from the other timelines. Some people, including a few scientists, believe that we might one day be able to travel between timelines. However, the implications of that theory gives me headaches, and the conversation on that would take years and volumes enough to fill several libraries. There's enough to say that the Against the Wind saga stories take place in such an alternate universe timeline. Ground rules, things to understand about this. For most of us, if we were to shift between our current timeline and the ATWS, Against the Wind saga timeline, we would not notice many differences, if any. Others would spot differences that would stand out like Rudolph's green nose. With this in mind, remember that some businesses or organizations may have different names or responsibilities or organizational structures. Some persons may be born years or decades before or after they were born here. Some die younger, while others live much longer. They may marry different people or the same as we know in our timeline. Whatever the reason, don't get mired in thinking that things have to happen the way they are in this timeline, our timeline. the same single word can inspire one person or demoralize another. And let's get back over here to chapter 11. Boom, there we go. Alrighty, so things have gone on. The main character is Walt Rogers. He was 20 years old at the beginning of the book. He just inherited his uncle's multi-thousand acre ranch up in Adams County, Idaho. After about a week after the funeral, Sheriff Randolph Cooper comes to see him, requests his assistance in helping one of his deputies to track down 2 bank robbers who held up the bank in town. They had tracked them out to a wilderness area where they found Jason Redhawk had found 4 sets of horse tracks, leading to believe that there was another person there, and the 4th horse was loaded with supplies and stuff. So, well, it was out there, does that for a couple weeks. He and Jason track down the bad guys, capture them, tie them up tightly, and bring them back into town and turn them over to the FBI. Showed up because, hey, it's a bank robbery. The FBI's got to do that. The FBI in that area had come up from Boise, were rather lax about procedures, untied them all at the same time to put handcuffs on them. And while they were fiddle farting around, one of the bad guys got pushed to an FBI agent, grabbed his gun, and shot 3 agents, and took a female hostage. Walt, who saw something wrong, had been shifted off the side. When they did this, brought his saddle rifle up and took out all 3 with 2 shots. Yes. At the time that was they were getting loose, a Humvee had pulled up and had 5 Homeland Security special ops team members in it. That was Special Agent in Charge, Chris Davies, also referred to as SAC Davies. SAC is Special Agent in Charge. And friendships developed between him and Walt, and things go on. Walt also later was asked to go talk to the principal because Walt's uncle Dan had made arrangements for the Future Farmers of America's students to come out to the ranch to work with rescued horses they had and sick or injured cattle. It was at this time when he was at the high school, an incident happened, and Walt met what is known as the Girl Squad, which is 6 girls with all different colored hair. The one girl who had jet black hair, which is her natural color, Sarah Ahern, and he interacted with her and with Amy, one of the other ones, a bit there. Though they all came out to the ranch as part of the FFA. Turns out they're also members of the Venture Crew, and the Venture Crew got permissions to camp on Walt's land. Anyways, when in the spring, when Sarah turned 18 and was a legal adult, she lets Walt know that she's had a crush on him since she was a freshman in high school and he was a senior. Okay. A bunch of other stuff has happened. Other groups have come in. The Donaldsons from Southern California with Master Gunnery Sergeant Kathy Dyer, who is on terminal leave when she got the job with the company that provides security for the Donaldsons. Mr. Donaldson was a retired Marine major, but he is currently one of the senior vice presidents for Chevron Oil. Let's see. I can't remember the other group that was up there now. There's several groups involved going on. And so we're going to jump in here. Things that have happened: a volcano in chapter 9, a volcano sprouted out of the asteroid that came in is coming by. It passed between the Earth and the Moon, way closer to the Earth than the Moon. Had an ultra heavy heavy metal core, caused all sorts of gravitational pulls, caused magma to shift and stuff. Earthquakes everywhere, volcanoes popping off everywhere. One new volcano erupted in New Madrid on the fault line there, and is causing all sorts of problems there. An extinct volcano near extinct volcano near Cheyenne Mountain erupted, burying all the interests of Cheyenne Mountain under feet of volcanic ash. And the Cascades subduction zone has erupted, split and ruptured, and has been causing all sorts of problems for half the book. All right, so let's get at it here. Chapter 11, Assessing. October 22nd, the first full day after it passes, it being the asteroid. Walt stood on the front porch of the ranch house looking at the ranch. The orange glow in the pre-dawn sky was dampened by the light rain that was steadily falling. All around the house were piles of ash that had slid off the roof over the past several days that were now settling under the rainfall that would soon be running in rivulets down towards the creek that ran through the ranch. Sarah stepped up next to him and slid her arm around his waist, resting her head against his shoulder, giving him a long, gentle hug. She also noticed the ash settling under the rain in a few spots where the rain had started to cut channels into the ash. Is this rain going to cause us problems? The way things have been going, I would have to say it'll cause a bunch of problems. What exactly and where, I can only make an educated guess. But I have a nasty feeling that we will have some mud and ash slides coming down from the higher elevations on the ranch. Will that flood the Redoubt village or the modular homes by the hay barn? Sarah asked with concern. Not unless it pushes a 10-foot deep and 100-foot wide wall of debris ahead of it. No, we should be okay for the homes, barns, and other storage areas. It's the water quality for the animals and the crops that I'm worried about. Okay, time out here. Going to go back in the last chapter. Walt had put up several modular homes for his extended family members. Some of them declined coming out there. He also put up installed one modular home for Sarah's family to stay at, so they wouldn't be stuck in town. And they moved out near the end of chapter 10. So that's why Sarah's out there at the ranch right now. Okay, let's continue on. And in town. Let me put it on here. Let me add on here. She asked, just to keep it clear who's talking. In the areas near the river and road crossings along the highway are some of the areas near the river, the road crossings, and along the highway are some of the areas we need to keep up. Are some. Let me put something in here. It does sound better when I add that in. Some of the areas that we need to keep a watch on. If we get a heavy storm, we could have some major problems. Even with rains like this. Walt gestured to to the rain now falling. If it were to go on for several days, we wouldn't get any flash floods, but we could very well get some big mudslides. And those might close some sections of the highway. The door behind them opened, and Mark guided silently through it. Mark is Walt's dad. So you two couldn't sleep either, Mark said as a statement of fact rather than a question. With all these earthquakes, I'm lucky to get a couple hours of sleep at night right now. And a couple days when the magma settles back down to normal, we could see what the permanent damage has been around the county. I may be able to get a half night's sleep. I wouldn't count on that just yet, Mark cautioned solemnly. Walt and Sarah both reacted with a start. What are you talking about? Walt asked. That in there. Murphy's Law. We don't know anything about what or how many asteroids from the asteroid belt got caught behind the big asteroid, big in there. When it passed through the belt. Ah, crap. I forgot about that, Walt groaned as the energy seemed to visibly drain from his body and his shoulders sagged and his head slumped down. I got a typo to correct here. Change that capital T to a lowercase t. There we go. Hey, babe, there's nothing else to do, Sarah said softly. You got us as prepared as we can be. Unless an asteroid lands close enough to wipe us out, we'll be fine. If it wipes us out, well then, we won't be able to do anything about it. Mark put his hands on his son's shoulder. She's right, Walt. She's right, Walt. All we can do is to monitor the radio frequencies and listen for any updates on what anyone is able to see or track in outer space, just in case we need to shelter in the tunnel again. We will need to keep the Venture crew in the mine until we can get an all clear for them to come out, Sarah added quickly. And don't forget Jason Redhawk's group at Bear Cave, Walt added. What sort of communication equipment do they have? Jason has a department radio with a charger, and his dad has a quad band ham radio. There are some other HF, high frequency, radios in the DHS supplies they have. I take it that the DHS warehouse have more communication equipment than we ever dreamed of having, Sarah stated. Actually, Chris got the sheriff's department several tote boxes of their comm gear. One set is in the safe room. Hey, Sarah exclaimed, speaking of the safe room, when are you going to show it to me? We can go down there now if you want. Walt stopped mid-sentence and stared at the sky. What? Sarah asked, thinking that he just thought of something else to do, and looked up into his face and only to see him staring off into space. What are you looking at? Meteorites. What? Mark and Sarah shouted. There. Walt pointed to a spot in the lower western sky. They must be small ones because they don't last very long. Whoa, Sarah exclaimed. There sure are a lot of them. The far southern sky had flashes every couple seconds as meteorites burnt up as they entered the atmosphere. That there are, Mark agreed, but at least they're burning up very quickly, which means they're very small. Dad, you want to wake David and a couple of the others up? Okay. Have David get on the radios and advise everyone that he can contact. There are a lot of meteorites falling in the aftermath of the asteroid passing, and get 2 others out here to count the take a count of the meteorites. It'll be light in an hour, and I want to have a good guess on what the rate per hour is, so we know what to expect tonight. I have to go advise my deputies and the DHS agents of what's going on. Got it, Mark said, and turned to go inside. Sarah, can you keep a count until you get some help? That's a lot of meteorites, but I'll do my best. That's all I'll ever ask of you, Walt smiled, leaned over and kissed Sarah deeply. Then, breaking the kiss, turned and followed his father inside the ranch house. Randy and Jerry Cassidy were once again sitting outside, manning the watch by the fire pit, maintaining the watch by the fire in the fire pit of the venture crew had built in front of the mine. Oops, that's supposed to be capitalized because they refer to it as a place all the time. There are certain things that are always capitalized. The mine and Bear Cave are 2 of the ones that are always capitalized. It was their shift to maintain the watch for anything that would or could threaten the group. The watchfire really wasn't much of a fire considering the light rain that was coming down. More of a warming fire of coal struggling to stay burning, and a metal ring that kept the light from showing too far. Even though several other ventures had offered to take their duty and let them have some honeymoon time, so hang on, that doesn't make sense. Even though even for that, they still would not shirk their turn. Besides, they reasoned, they'd be alone at the fire pit and wouldn't be bothered by anyone, as it was getting a bit chilly. They'd also have some time away from nosy ears to do serious planning for their future, both with and without children. They were concerned about how they were going to make a living and how far back into the Stone Age the world was going to be plunged. After the shockwave from the Yellowstone eruption had passed, the ventures. Aha! I need to fix something here. Reopen the entrance to the mine back up, but still kept the opening small enough so they could close it up quickly. Now that they had a little more time to properly secure the entrance, they had been replacing the bags of food with a small wall of rocks and small boulders that could be rolled into place. The Ventures had lost 2 cameras and 6 microphones to the damage effects of the shockwave hit, so they were supplementing the remaining cameras with a pair of watchers at the fire pit and 2 more up on the hill above the mine near one of the vent shafts. They dropped a phone wire down the vent and hooked up a simple intercom system. By 10:10, a 10 by 10 pop-up with a half-wrap side section had been set up between the mine entrance and the fire pit. This gave whoever was on watch more shelter from the winds and cold of the night. The early morning hours and the I get tongue-tied here. And the early morning hours that than just blankets alone would. Okay. This gave whoever was on watch more shelter from the winds of the cold of the night and the early morning hours than just blankets would have. Okay, so a little bit off. Let me look at that again. This would give whoever was on the watch. from the winds. Hang on here. Let me redo that one. Change that of and put a comma in it. From the winds, the cold of the night, and the temperature drop, DRO, drop of the, there, yeah, now it makes sense. This gave whoever was on watch more shelter from the winds, the cold of the night, and the temperature drop of the early morning hours than just blankets would. The half-wrap side section covered completely across the back of the pop-up and halfway towards the front on each side. It was fortuitous that the pop-up had been up before the rains began, for it kept the area they were sitting in dry. The problem with the pop-up, while it had a good view of what was in front of the mine and down into the valley, it blocked the view of what was behind and above them. They were unaware of the meteors that were streaking through the sky and burning up behind them as they contemplated the future. The temperature was starting to drop as it does before dawn, and the fire was struggling to keep burning, so Randy got up to feed it with another big lump of coal and several cups of charcoal and a couple of pieces of split pine. When he turned around to go back to the log where Jerry was sitting, he saw the light show from the meteors. Whoa, wait a minute, I gotta capitalize the word here. He exclaimed softly. What is it? You better come take a look, Randy said, slightly memorized at what he saw in the sky. Hang on. In the night. Okay, hang on. Sometimes I get typing fast. And what he saw in the night sky. Yeah, there we go. Let me hit save so I don't lose any of my edits here. Jerry struggled to get up from the log and keep the blankets they were using to keep the cold at bay around her. She gathered the blankets to keep from tripping on them, keep them dry and mud-free, as she shuffled over to Randy and turned to see what had his attention more than her. Are we going to survive this? She asked softly Are we going to survive this? She asked softly. She asked softly, comma, as if she spoke louder as the meteors would have heard her and changed their course to come get her. It looks like they're all passing far to the south and the west, and the Earth is rotating in a direction away from them. We shouldn't have to worry about them until this evening. But will we survive everything? Jerry asked in a pleading voice as she scooted closer to him. Randy wrapped his arm around her. I believe we will be okay. And I need to capitalize another one here. He sighed. Still, we better tell the others. It was mid-morning as Lonnie Butterfield looked around at those seated at the table. 5 of the larger families in the Indian Valley area had sent 2 representatives each in response to Lonnie's request. 6 other families had sent only 1, as the rest of the family members were busy cleaning up their property and tending to the livestock. These were the only ones that responded to his invitation to meet even though the drizzling rain had stopped at sunrise. There were several of the vehicles parked. There were several of the vehicles parked out front that didn't have some sort of added air filtration contraption added to them, and 2 horses with homemade dust masks. Those without added filtration were those that hadn't lived in the area when Mount St. Helens had erupted or hadn't gotten around to installing them yet. When Jane reported there wasn't anybody else on the road, Lonnie called the meeting to order. Okay, folks, it's time to get to the reason I asked you all to come here. Lonnie took a deep breath and sighed. As you know, we are facing a difficult winter with all the damage from the asteroids passing, the earthquakes, ashfall, powder outage, and such. Those we can handle, especially since we had some forewarning, we were able to lay in extra provisions. He looked around the room with a bit of sturdiness at each face there, then continued. The ash is causing us some concern with the livestock, and I believe it is with all of you as well. But we're country folk and we can deal with it. Everyone nodded in agreement. We may have to butcher and jerky a lot more than normal, but that's life, and we're used to dealing with things that nature throws at us. But what is not country life is what we're going to have to deal with. Hang on. What is not country life is that we're going to have to deal. Something's wrong here. What is that? Okay, I got it. What is not country life is that we are going to have to deal with is what is happening in the cities and larger towns. Hang on, I want to make that stand out a little bit here. Put an emphasis on it. There we go. Is what is happening in the cities and larger towns. It seems many people thought the government was going to take care of them and their needs. You know, hold their hands and wipe their behinds and dry their tears. Chuckles, snorts, and a few outright laughs came in response to Lonnie's last sentence. Lonnie smiled too. That is the reason I've asked you all to come here this morning. Sheriff Rogers has asked us to organize the residents of the southern end of the county to be ready for the fleeing masses that he believes will be coming our way when the snow melts enough for them to pass and the roads past the road closures. He believes that there will be groups that will head this way before the roads get too bad. Hang on. He also believes that there will be groups that will head this way before the roads get too bad to travel. Some of these will be honest, hardworking folks who will offer a fair exchange for food and help. These will be the minority. Most will be lazy, shiftless, and life owes me types who will take what they want. Some of these will make it here before winter sets in. We cannot afford to let them take our supplies. To do so will put our families at risk of starvation or worse. Will it be that bad? Mason Johnson asked. That is the best case scenario, Kathy spoke as she walked forward from the kitchen door. In Boise, things are already falling apart. The police are being hard pressed to maintain order. Sheriff Rogers told me that the DHS special agent in charge, Davies, and his convoy were attacked outside the federal building and had to kill several of the attackers. Kathy stepped next to Lonnie. Think about this. There are going to be no more food deliveries coming to Boise. Hang on a second here. Okay, so in editing, things bounced around a little bit, so I'm going to delete the space in between that I had added before. All of those people that believed the government was going to provide food for them and didn't stockpile for the winter will be starving by the first of the year. Heck, some of them will be out of food by the end of the month and more by Thanksgiving. What do you think they are going to do? Just roll over and die? No, they're going to take what they can from others. There are going to be they are going to riot and kill others to save themselves. Then come the spring, they are going to look for food. Oh, sorry, missed the word. Then come spring, where are they going to look for food? Where? Here, Mason said weakly. That's right. Come spring, we will have individuals and groups coming here to take what we have and kill us to get it. Deputy Dyer is right. Lonnie spoke again. She is well trained and will help us to secure the county line and prepare for what's coming. Lonnie paused, not sure what to call those that would be coming from the city. Riotous mobs and brigand hordes are what they will be by the time they get here, Joseph interjected. Brigand hordes? Asked one of the neighbors that had rode one of the horses to the meeting. Riotous mobs? Asked another. Yes, some will band together into gangs of sorts. Leaders will come to the forefront, and they will not be the gentle type either. Joseph stared down at everyone. They may not be the gangs of the inner cities, but they will be mean. They will be mean and nasty by the time they work their way up here. Others will be those that are just very desperate for food and basic needs. They will be turned into righteous mobs by their hunger and anger. Anger, Robert Young asked. Yes, anger. Anger that the government was not doing what they thought that it should have done, and anger themselves for not for having to take from others, and just plain mad about the situation they are in. And they'll take it out on anyone who has more than they do. And who is that? Kathy asked. Us, several neighbors said in unison. I'm glad you understand the precariousness of our situation. We are, or soon will be, in hang on, I got too many B's in there. Let me take the one out. Or will be in that proverbial moral spot between a rock and a hard place, Lonnie said. Damned if we do and damned if we don't, huh? Martin Fielding stated more than asked in his gravelly old voice. Perfectly put, Mr. Fielding, Kathy said with a grim smile. We may have to do things that'll sicken you. However, remember your choices. Your family or them. Who's going to live? No choice there, Gordon Johnson piped up. Oh, no choice there. My family, Gordon Johnson piped up. Mark Johnson reached over and put his hand on his son's shoulder and gave him a firm and approving squeeze. That's right. So Martin Fielding asked with a bit of suspicion hanging in his voice, what else do we do that we won't be doing now? What else do we need to do that we won't be doing now? Planning, organizing, patrol, plan, organize, patrol, communicate, and steel yourselves for the worst. Kathy said, slow, emphasizing each word. And is if on cue to punctuate what Kathy said, Mary came into the living room in a hurry. There's a caravan of vehicles coming up the highway. The long-range CCTV camera started working again and picked them up. They're doing about 15 miles an hour. That means they'll be at the county line in about 15 minutes, Lonnie said. How many vehicles? At least 25. The camera was offline and didn't come up until vehicles were going by. Kathy looked at Joseph, had a concerned look on his face. They are a little early for refugees from the Boise area. They could be a prepper group that decided to get while they can, Joseph replied. True, but they should have bugged out before the asteroid passed, Lonnie observed. Unless they thought they would wait and see what would happen with the asteroid and then see if the food shipments stopped, which the food shipments could have stopped days ago with the earthquakes. Some roads could be out, or the shippers don't have drivers willing to take the risk right now. So nothing's been getting through to the city for the last couple days. Now they are panicking and getting out instead of waiting out the winter to see how bad it gets, Mary proposed. That would mean that it is getting bad now and people are heading out before winter sets in to find a safe haven to hole up in, Joseph said, with a deepening concern in his voice and on his face. Kathy, radio the sheriff and give him an update. The rest of us will go secure the road. Lonnie, we need the deuce and a half to take those that rode horses and anyone with a good sniping rifle to the woods opposite Donald Smith's big shop via Monday Gulch Road. I'll go fire it up, Lonnie said as he turned and hurried out of the room. Paul, get my Quigley and Kathy's 50 cal and load them in the Raptor. Ross, get the Raptor ready to go. I'll be riding with you. He turned towards the twins. Go get Kathy's Harley ready to go. Mary, go get Kathy's Harley ready to go. Jane, get yours and Mary's rifles and grab extra ammo too. Mr. Donaldson, Gordon held up a hand to get Joseph's attention. Yes, Gordon? I have a drone. Here's I forgot to put stuff in. I have a drone with us that we use to track the cattle and such, and it's in the back of the truck. What's the range of it? Joseph asked, suddenly excited at having aerial surveillance available. It's a blimp type style, so it can stay up indefinitely, but it has maneuvering capability for 3.5 hours with both cameras transmitting. I've had it fly down to Cambridge and record the football games. Great. Get it airborne and headed down to the county line and get eyes on the caravan. All right, people, we need to be out there in 5 minutes if we're going to be in place when they get to the county line. I got a hold of Donald, Robert Young called out. He's blocking the highway with an old school bus and some other broken down equipment he has. Perfect. The sheriff said to hold all traffic. He's on his way, but will not get there for about will not get here for about 50 minutes. There are 2 teams of DHS on their way, and they should be here in 20 minutes. They're not sure, but they think it may be a Homeland Security convoy that left Boise early this morning, Kathy reported. Okay, they may be good guys, but we are to hold them until the DHS agents get there to verify who they are. 10 minutes later, they had reached the county line and had the state Highway 95 blocked off. Donald Smith not only had the school bus blocking the highway, but had dragged several old belly dump trailers out to block the field on the east side of the highway to the irrigation canal that fed from the Weiser River about 300 yards back east of the county line. On the west side, he had a couple of rusty old cargo containers in his equipment yard, blocking the fence line from the corner of his property back up to the tree line. These, Joseph could tell, had been there for a long time, as waist-high brush had grown up around them. On top of the containers were a dozen pallets, some with farm equipment that hadn't been used for a while, others, and all the stuff was covered with a layer of ash. The space between the highway and the corner of his property was filled with a dozer and a track loader, the latter of which was cabled to the old school bus. There were two concrete K-rail barriers positioned on each side of the highway from the front of the equipment, in front of the equipment and trailers. The K-rail looked like it had been there for a couple of days because they had a layer of ash on them, and the ash on the ground had not been disturbed. Off to the east, on the other side of the river, back in the trees, Joseph could barely make out Lonnie's deuce and a half. He knew that meant there were several ranchers set up as snipers in the lush brush that grew along the riverbank. They were about 120 yards from the highway, prime hunting range for these hunters used to hunting coyotes and such. Mary and Jane had grabbed a ladder and taken up positions on top of the cargo containers, each behind a pallet of equipment that offered them substantial cover and concealment. Paul and Ross climbed into the bed of a dump truck that was on a mound of dirt 40 yards behind the bus barricade. The bed of this dump truck had a canopy that extended over the cab of the truck. And on it, they had set up Kathy's 50 cal. Ross was in the shooter's position, and Paul was setting up a spotter scope. The others had taken a position around the belly dump trailers, the dozer, and the dozer. Mason and Gordon Johnson were over at Mason's pickup at the back end. Gordon had set up a folding chair facing the open tailgate on which sat the control station for the drone. It slid out of the camper shell onto the tailgate and became a flight station. Mason stood behind Gordon as he watched the monitors for the drone's cameras. Suddenly, Mason called out an alarm. Deputy Dyer, Major Donaldson, come here quickly. Kathy and Joseph ran up to the pickup, with Kathy getting there several steps ahead of Joseph. What is it? What's up? Kathy asked as she moved around to see the monitors as Joseph finally caught up, breathing hard. Well, we found a civilian caravan and it has about 30 vehicles in it. However, in the front of the other group, in front of it is another group. In the front of this group, the first 6 like they are military vehicles, but then the next 10 look like RVs and passenger vans, Gordon said excitedly. So what's wrong? You see, after the last RVs, there are 2 Humvees with a pair of 50 caliber machine guns mounted on them, and they're manned. About 20 lengths behind them is the caravan that Mary saw. 30 vehicles of assorted makeup. They seem to be tagging along behind the government convoy, but not getting close enough to make the gunners track them. That's still nothing to worry about, Joseph replied. No, but this is, Gordon said as he worked the controls that made the drone bank right and go out over the open fields back in the opposite direction. One monitor's image swiveled to the right and zoomed in down on the town of Cambridge, which was still a ways off. I thought that if one group followed a government convoy, there could be another further back. So I took a look down the highway, and this is what I found. The camera display on the monitor zoomed in a little more as the drone banked right again, so it lined up looking looking north up the highway as entered Cambridge. There, strung up along the highway, were about 60 motorcycles of various configurations. Two 20-foot box trucks, an old Greyhound bus. It looks like they're doing about 20 miles an hour, Kathy estimated. But they should slow down through town, Gordon said hopefully. Maybe, maybe not. The ash isn't falling right now, and the road has been cleared by the first two groups. The lead military truck has a snowplow on it, clearing most of the ash from the road. They're just going slow so they don't stir up the residue ash and suck it into their engines, Mason said a little bit more apprehensively. We don't know who they are, so can you keep an eye on them? Joseph asked. Better yet, can you get behind the biker group and zoom in for a closer look at them? Sure thing, Gordon said, and then asked why behind him. I want to see what colors they're wearing. Colors? Gordon, Mason, and Joseph asked at the same time. Yeah, you see motorcycle clubs wear vests or jackets with logos and banners. It identifies what club or gang they belong to. With all those guys bundled up like they are, I can't tell if they're a gang or just a local group of riders from Boise. I have a feeling it may be the former. They watched as Gordon maneuvered the drone behind the motorcycles. After several minutes, it was in position to see the back of the riders. Crap, Kathy said with disdain in her voice. I know who and what they are. Joseph looked at Kathy with a good idea what she said. Go ahead, Gunny. That is a motorcycle gang's supply camp. They're going to be one of they belong to the most vile and violent gangs around. Usually only when they're going cross country or to a big meet do the trucks and buses go along. The trucks are loaded with fuel, common parts, a welder, lathe, small milling machine, medical supplies, surplus military tents, and such. The bus has an operating room of sorts in the back for stitching up wounds and setting broken bones and the like. It also carries the wags of the 4 escort bikers who are in front of the first truck and the 2 behind the bus. It also carries the common women. Wags? Joseph asked. Common women? Asked Gordon almost at the same time. A wag means a wife or girlfriend of a fully patched member, although the term girlfriend is misnomer in that she's usually been a very long is a misnomer in that she is usually the very long term partner of the biker. A better term would be more like wife or old lady. And it's only for women who are allowed to stay with the gang and have one man. and have some sort of standing in the gang. Common women are those not owned by a specific biker. They are also called pass-arounds. That means they are shared by the gang members one at a time or in groups. Oh, Gordon said, a little taken back. All we can hope for is that they decide to stop in Cambridge for a bit while we have a chance to get ready for them, Kathy said grimly. Get ready for them? Mason squeaked and then swallowed hard. You want to have a run in them? Did you notice they were all packing weapons of sorts? Some of them had AKs or M16s or other form of automatic rifle. These guys are geared for battle, not a stroll in the park. And you want to fight them? Mason asked with fear in his voice. Better now when we know that they are coming and before more join up with them. Kathy said flatly. More? Gordon asked. How do you know there'll be more coming? 2 supply trucks and the bus. That says there are probably about 100 more somewhere else that should be on their way to join with them. The big question is, are they where these guys are going, and where is the rest of the gang? It could be the rest of the gang. Could the rest of the gang already be where they are going, and these are just stragglers? Joseph asked. I doubt it. This is a scouting unit. They'll go find and set up a campsite for the rest of the gang. Somebody would have noticed a large biker group if it had already come through and would have let the sheriff know about them. And he didn't say anything to you about them, did he? Joseph stated more than asked. Correct, Kathy verified. And I have a very bad feeling when they get to Cambridge, they're going to cause some trouble. If they do, then the fight will be on. So why fight them now? Marston asked, not exactly what kind of people he'd gotten mixed up with, and with a little bit of panic thrown in for good measure. Can't we just let them pass by? There are only 60 or so there right now. We know where they are. They don't know about us, so we'll have the advantage of surprise, Kathy said. Agreed, Joseph added. We have the long-range weapons and advantage right now. If you zoom back in closer, you'll see they aren't packing anything better than AKs for range. If they have anything better, it's packed away in the bus or the trucks. If they do start trouble in Cambridge, then they'll also hit Alpine and Council. I didn't think about that, Marston said softly. Cambridge is far enough from Boise as not to get a big law enforcement response. They are going to be too busy with the problems that are popping up in the city right now. Power outages and looting and such, Kathy noted. And with the cell service going down more and larger, folks in Cambridge may not be able to call for help, right? Gordon asked. Correct. Once the DHS teams get here, and if that is their convoy, then we'll have several Mod Deuces and other DHS weapons here to deal with them. Kathy continued. And if the sheriff brings Sarah, then we can just all sit back and watch the show. If she can shoot in combat like she draws, Joseph said skeptically, knowing that shooting a target is quite differently than shooting a person. Hey guys, look. Gordon said in a panic. They're stopping. Some of them are pulling into the U.S. Bank parking lot and some next to the pawn shop. They're getting their weapons ready. That tears it, Joseph said. They're hitting the places that have money, both paper and coin. The pawn shop is also a coin shop. If we're lucky and they don't, and don't find what they want right off, then they will waste more time looking around town for it before heading in our direction. Gordon, can you record this? Already am. Good. See if you can get close-ups of each of their faces. The sheriff will want proof of this for the courts. Well, the bank is closed, so they won't get anything from there unless they plan on breaking into the vault. But Bernie lives upstairs over the pawn shop, and that could be trouble. Who's Bernie? He's the owner of the pawn shop. He procures special items for survivalists and others that don't want a record of. I want a record of. Hang on. Of what they have. If they don't leave when he tells them to, well, it could get really violent really quick. Kathy watched as the first of the trucks now stopped in front of the bank and the other stopped in front of the pawn shop. The bus stopped 100 feet behind the second truck. What's that building? Kathy asked, pointing to a building that several of the bikers were moving towards. That's Loveland's General Store. 6 of the bikers standing in front of the pawn shop. One of them was beating on the door. Suddenly, they jerked about as red puffs exploded from them, and tracer lines appeared from the pawn shop. Passing through them and into the second truck. Told you things would get violent. Gordon stopped talking as the truck in front of the pawn shop exploded in a huge fireball. Lord Almighty! Mason exclaimed softly, as not to incur the same wrath that just enveloped the truck. One of those tracers must have hit some explosive they had in the truck, Joseph noted. Yeah, but are they going to run or fight? That's the question, Kathy said. Just then, Just then, Joseph's radio came to life with Paul's voice. Here they come, and they have a deuce and a half with a snowplow leading the way and clearing the road. Major, can you keep me apprised of what the bikers are doing while I deal with the first group? Sure thing, Gunny. Joseph answered and saluted her. Kathy turned and hustled across the ash-covered highway to the roadblock as she worked her earpiece into place. The convoy stopping about 1,000 feet back by the corral and barn on the south side of the highway. Paul's voice came through Kathy's earpiece. Hold that, Paul came back again. The deuce and a half is moving forward, and a Humvee is rolling up fast from further back in the convoy. Kathy slipped around the back of the old school bus and started walking down the middle of the highway towards the oncoming vehicles. When they're about 75 feet from her, she reached up with her right hand and brushed the ash from her sheriff's deputy badge and then tapped it. The deuce and a half slowed slightly, and Kathy could see the passenger bring a hand mic to his mouth. The Humvee that was speeding to catch the deuce and a half also started to slow down. When the deuce and a half was 40 feet away from her, Kathy held up her left hand to signal the vehicles to stop. To her relief, they did. She pointed to the passenger and wiggled her finger for him to come to her. The passenger and the driver looked at each other talking for a moment, and then the passenger held the mic to his lip again, then lowered it. A couple seconds later, he opened the door and climbed down out of the truck. At the same time, the Humvee pulled forward besides the deuce and a half and stopped. On top of Top of it was a cupola with a minigun. The gunner kept it aimed at the ground just to Kathy's right. The passenger from the deuce and a half walked slowly towards Kathy with his arms slightly out from his body and bent at the elbows with the palms towards the front. Across his chest was a UMP or UMP 45 on a sling. When he got about 10 feet from her, he stopped. Sorry, but the highway is closed by order of Sheriff Rogers, Kathy said as she watched the passenger's face for reactions. She saw the ones she was hoping for, and tenseness left his face, and he let out a sigh. I'm DHS Agent Jackson. We're the DHS convoy from Boise. Zach Davies will vouch for us. We know about a convoy, but we'll have to wait for the DHS teams to get here to allow you to pass. What about the 30 or so vehicles behind your last Humvee? Kathy watched his face, asked, still watching his face. Jackson blinked and turned around to see behind him, to look back at Kathy. How do you know about them? Say we know about the 60-plus bikers following your cleared path faster than you're traveling. Jackson started to reach for his hand mic when his handheld radio, and Kathy held up her left finger. Hold on, and put her right hand on her right ear. Go ahead, Major. Kathy listened and nodded as Joseph told her that the motorcycle gang started to fight in earnest with the pawn shop owner. Then more town folk joined in the fray. The first box truck took some of the tracer fire and started smoking bad, but no flames could be seen coming from it. The bus was another story. It started taking gunfire when it erupted in a fireball. Once the bus went up, the townfolk turned their full attention to the bikers. Of the 60 bikers, about a third of them had been taken out, and the rest were fleeing towards the roadblock. Copy that, Major. She lowered her hand and spoke to Jackson. The folks in Cambridge just took out 20 of the bikers, and the rest are heading this way. Have the rest of your convoy move up here. Move up here. So once we have you verified, you can get through the blockade before they get here. How long do we have before they get here? Jackson asked with a little panic in his eyes. About 15 to 20 minutes. If they don't turn around and go back to seek revenge for their dead. Do you have any idea when the teams are going to get here? About 5 to 10 minutes. That's cutting it kind of close, Jackson said as he turned and waved the deuce and a half to pull up to where he was standing, and the Humvee to do likewise in its lane. Then he got on the radio, relayed the information from Kathy to the others in the convoy. What are you planning to do when the bikers get here? The sheriffs and others will be here by then. We will use extreme members to turn what's left of them back, Kathy said with a slight smile. What's left of them? We're planning on fighting. We have several snipers on each side of the road and an observation drone to track them. We don't plan on too many of them getting back to Cambridge, she said flatly. And Zach Davies is okay with that? Kathy shrugged. As far as I've heard, he's not against it, but then again, I really don't care. I will not allow that scum to hurt my family group. Kathy raised her right hand to her right ear again. Respected. Copy that. I'm talking with Jackson now. She looked at Jackson. Zach Davies just arrived with 6 agents and 3 more deputies. He would like to talk to you. Jackson nodded and turned back, looked at Humvee, and brought his hand mic to his mouth. I'm going to meet Zach Davies. Got it. I'll have everyone ready to move on your signal, came the voice back over his radio. Kathy and Jackson walked back to the roadblock and around the back of the bus. They gathered around the back of Mason's truck where DHS agents Jesse Carr, Tim Rose, and 4 others dressed in the same black tactical gear. And with them were Deputy Chris Harden and 2 other deputies. Joseph was addressing most of attention to one agents that Kathy had not met yet. She presumed it was Zach Davies. As they got close, let me wipe my eyes here. Last night yesterday afternoon, I got the humidity in the house up to 41%. But during the night, my measures for keeping the moisture up dried out. I got some wet towels that hang over the air vents and to evaporate air, and it got dry. And it's down to it was down to 35 till I got them wet again. Now it's back up to 37, but the dry air makes my eyes water and gunk up. As they got close, Joseph looked up from the drone monitors. Gunny, this is Special Agent in Charge Chris Davies. Agent Davies, this is Deputy Kathy Dyer. Good to meet you, sir. Kathy smiled as she took Chris's hand. Gunny, Walt told me you're in charge down here. I wouldn't say I'm in charge. I'm just the department's focal point for him, Kathy said, with a bit of resignation in his voice. I think you're doing a great job. You got the community pulled together to protect yourself. That was mostly Lonnie and the major. All I did was legitimize the action as a deputy. I told you she was cool, Chris Harden said to the other 2 deputies. No ego there. Kathy shot Chris a glance, and he smiled and nodded back. Kathy realized he wasn't being sarcastic but serious and smiled back. Agent Jackson, are you ready to move your convoy to the warehouse? Hang on, I got to get this gunk out of my eyes here. It is. There we go. There was some crusties in there, too, from last night. All right. Are you ready to move your convoy to the warehouse? We're just waiting for your verification so they'll let us pass. Joseph hollered out, let's get the bus out of the way so we can get those people through before the bikers get here. Agent Jackson, keep 2 of your Humvees with the 50 cals here. Pat, take Bud and the Humvee without a Top Gun to escort them to Site 1. Bobby, Chris jumped in. You and Nelson go escort those following the Homeland convoy to the high school. We'll get the CERT guys to start processing them as refugees. But first, hang on. But first, hold them a quarter mile up the road around the bend until a Walt gets here, just to be sure that's what he wants to do. Bobby O'Connor and Nelson Tanner nodded and moved off to intercept the vehicles following the DHS convoy. Joseph turned back to Mason and Gordon. Can you move the truck while controlling the drone? I can put it into an autopilot orbital pattern while we drive, Gordon smiled. Good. Move your truck back up the road to that turnoff 200 feet up there to the left. I don't want you taking any accidental damage. Sure thing, Joseph, Mason said. Gordon typed in a few keystrokes and then slid the controls back into the bed of the truck and tossed the chair in after it, closing it and closed the tailgate. Mason hopped in the truck and started it as soon as Gordon climbed in. They were heading up the road, and they were heading up the road. Donald Smith pulled the old school bus off the road, and the DHS convoy moved through the blockade, with the deuce and a half plowing ash to the side of the road. The Humvee with Pat Smith and Bud Myers pulled out in front to lead the way to council. Deputy Bobby O'Connor stood by to flag down the lead vehicle following the convoy, and Deputy Tanner sat in the department's SUV ready to pull out to lead it to the holding point, to lead the way to the holding point. All right. Kathy got on her Harley and rode back to where Gordon was setting up the controls and setting the controls and monitors back up. Do you have eyes on the bikers? Kathy asked as soon as she shut her, getting tongue-tied here, shut off her Harley and stepped off of it. Give me a second to sweep the area. There they are. They're passing Thompson Lane and coming fast. Major, they're passing Thompson Lane, moving fast, Kathy said into her radio. They'll be here in a couple of minutes, Gordon added. Gordon says they'll be here in a couple of minutes, she repeated, then turned when she heard the sound of a big engine coming down the road from Alpine. Looks like the sheriff's here. Coming up behind him was Walt Rogers in his Ranger 2. He had a half dozen cowboys riding in the back of it. He pulled up next to Kathy and stopped. Sarah rolled down the window. Walt called out, "Gunny, what's the situation?" "Sheriff, we have a nasty and pissed off biker gang about 2 minutes out. There's about 40 of them. They lost their 2 supply trucks and med bus and 20 of their friends in Cambridge. These guys are the worst of the worst, real rabid dogs type." Deputy Dyer, Gordon hollered from his control. "There's only 36 of them." Then after a short pause, "Make that 35, no 34. He adjusted the camera drone. "There's 3 pickups chasing them, loaded with folks from Cambridge, shooting at them with hunting rifles. That explains why their numbers are dropping so fast. Climb on, Gunny. Let's go deal with them," Walt said with a heavily not liking what they were going to have to do. Kathy stepped onto the running board and grabbed the handhold with her left hand as Walt put the Ranger 2 in gear. When Walt got close to the DHS Humvees, he pulled off the road onto the wide shoulder area next to them. Kathy stepped off the running board before the Ranger had come to a complete stop. The cowboys in the back of the Ranger also began to bail out before it had stopped. Once it did stop, the 4 doors opened and Walt, Sarah, and 8 more cowboys climbed out. "Hey, Chris, how do you want to handle this?" Walt said quickly, knowing that they didn't have much time. "You're the sheriff. This is a local problem so far. We're just to help however you might need us. These are your people protecting their homes. We're just guests here. I don't want to step on your toes in front of your voters." "Well, I guess we better get, babe, Sarah interrupted. Do you love me? Walt turned to see Sarah standing in the middle of the highway looking through binoculars where the bikers would be coming. Oh, shit, muttered Agent Sal Peters as he turned slowly and started walking away. Crap, Chris said. Why? Walt asked cautiously. If you do, you'll let me handle this, Sarah said, still looking through the binoculars. I think I can turn him around. What? Walt Prifey shouted. Are you out of your... Walt stopped short when Chris punched him in the shoulder. Walt looking annoyingly at him, only to see Chris shaking his head as he raised his index finger to his lips. Walt mouthed, what? What do you have in mind, Sarah? Chris asked. Get your Humvees backed up against that fence at angle to charge the blockade in case my plan doesn't work. Ventures, let's get lined up on both sides of the roads in front of the blockade. Time to play cavalry. Funnel V formation on each side of the highway, Sarah ordered as she started walking towards the opening in the blockade. She looked back over her shoulder. I'm going to try to sweet talk him with a big stick. Walt started to object as the cowboys all ran through the blockade, but stopped when Chris put his hand on his shoulder and whispered to him, you got to let her do this. Just be ready to stand by her afterwards when she's puking her guts out like you did when we first met. But Walt looked lost at Chris. Do you love her? Of course. Then stand by your decision. He said. He's pulled Walt gently back towards the Humvees. You should back your truck up a bit too. As the Humvees and Ranger 2 were moved back, Sarah and the Ventures took up their positions on either side. Sarah and the Ventures took up their positions on either side of the blockade. Sarah stood in the middle of the road of the highway on the dotted line, with Jerry Cassidy on her left and Randy to Jerry's left, and our right side was Danny Rourke Ahern. The rest were lined up, angling away from him towards the fence line on either side of the road. Everyone was wearing a cowboy hat and off-white duster, carrying a lever-action rifle, except for Sarah. She had opened her duster in the front, exposing her cross-draw pistol. The bikers came around the bend in the highway about 3,000 feet away, and everybody seemed to tense up. Everybody stay loose and don't get tensed up. These are just polecats that need to be put down, Sarah shouted. I'm going to try to convince them to turn around and head back to Cambridge first. If that doesn't work, then it's open season on polecats. Just polecats that shoot back. If you need to hit the ground, do it. Don't run, because that'll make you easy targets. Kathy added. She stepped up next to Danny. Sarah and the others looked over at her and saw she was wearing a cowboy hat and duster too. I borrowed the sheriff, so I would match the rest of you. Sarah smiled and said, just because you're wearing Walt's clothes, don't expect me to kiss you after. Don't expect me to kiss. Oh, sorry. Just as you're wearing Walt's clothes, don't expect me to let you kiss me afterwards. Don't worry, I don't want the sheriff mad at me for stealing his girl, Kathy said as she adjusted the sights on Joseph's Quigley rifle. You're that good of a kisser, Sarah continued, the nervous banter. That's what the boys say. She worked the the action open and dropped in one of the 45 120 cartridges. Damn, Danny exclaimed. That's the biggest 45 caliber round I've ever seen. It's a 45 120 caliber Buffalo round. This rifle's called the Quigley from the movie it was made for. This is the majors. Ross has my 50 cal Barrett 82A1, and Mary has her 338 Lapua Ruger precision rifle. Looks like they're slowing down. When do you want to start this dance, Sarah? Sarah thought for a second, called out, "Nobody shoots until I do." Are you sure about that? Mary shouted from her position on one of the cargo containers. Positive, Sarah shouted back. Bullshit, Danny said. You're hoping. You're right. Aim at the fuel tanks of the bikes aim at the fuel tanks of the bikes further back in the pack, but don't fire until I say to, okay? And then you go into machine gun mode, Jerry asked. Something like that, Sarah said as she held up her left hand, indicating she wanted the bikers to stop. To her surprise, they slowed, and most of them stopped about 80 feet away. The three bikers in front continued forward in a slow roll, just fast enough to keep their bikes from falling over. When they were about 30 feet away, they stopped too. Then the others rolled up. The slow rolled up to the first three. Then they shut their motors off. Sarah spoke in a sweet southern accent. It appears you all boys have stirred up a hornet's nest. Sorry. Back there in Cambridge. Because of that, we can't let you into Adams County. Girlie, we ain't going back, so you kids best get out of our way, the biggest biker said with a sneer. Let's check the numbers, shall we? Kathy said lightheartedly. So far, you lost over 25 of your riders, plus those in the trucks and the bus. We have over a dozen snipers in the trees and fields covering you. 15 Texas Rangers with Henry repeaters chambered in 45 longs. 45 longs, 20 plus ranchers with 30-30s, and worst of all for you, there are 3 DHS Humvees with mod deuces on them being held back on the other side of the roadblock by her fiance. So you boys best turn around and head back where you came from, because you're not allowed in Adams County. Sheriff spoke again. Otherwise, we'll tie your carcasses to the fence for the wolves to feed on, and as a sign of those that follow. Girlie, don't call me Girlie, Sarah snarled. The biker was shocked for a second, then laughed. Me and the boys are going to take both of you and the rest of your Texas Rangers and enjoy plugging all your holes tonight. He and several of the boys started to laugh. In your dreams, Kathy growled. No, in your dreams, we'll triple team you. Not likely, Sarah hissed as she shifted her weight slightly to her right foot, picked up her left foot, then slid it behind her and behind her knee and caught the leading edge of her duster with the spur and pulled it back around her and brought it up to her left hand. She took hold of the corner of the duster as she lowered her left foot and brought the corner of the duster up in front of her and tucked it into her gun belt and slid it back, catching the left side of the duster with it to expose a second holster and crossed it off fashion and a third holster on her left hip. Now, when the biker saw Sarah's guns and the look on her face, he stopped laughing. Now, you don't want to be doing that, he started to speak. He said, as you want to be doing that. As he started speaking, one of the bikers behind him pulled his gun from a shoulder holster and started to point it at Sarah. The lead biker continued to stop. Now listen up, The word girly never finished leaving his mouth as the pain of a 36 caliber mini ball shattered his left ankle and knee, overrode the nerve impulses from his brain to his mouth. The biker that was pulling the gun went limp as a bullet entered his right eye and bounced around inside his skull, scrambling his brain. Go, shouted Sarah as she continued shooting her single-action bullet cap pistols with unnerving speed. The rider to the right of the big biker went stiff and fell off backwards. His Adam's apple split, and his number 6 cervical vertebrae blew out the back. The rider to his right screamed a short scream as a ball from Sarah's left pistol shattered his cheekbone and bounced around inside his skull. One biker after another screamed and died in the hail of bullets that rained down on him from Sarah's pistols before the others were able to add their shots to hers. Shady Hill Homestead, hey, sorry I didn't notice you came in. All right, hang on. Wipe the eyes time. It's still, it's getting dry again. The furnace just shut off and it's drying out again. Down to 36 humidity here, so yeah, my eyes are gonna be bad for a while here. 6 seconds after Sarah's 6 seconds after Sarah's first shot, it was over. Now the biker was left upright. All three of her guns were empty, and she was switching out the empty cylinders for reloaded ones. There were several of the bikers that had just been wounded by the shaky aim of the Ventures and others. A couple of them were caught in the fire of the fuel tanks that Kathy and Danny and Jerry had shot open during, were still alive, though severely burned. And most likely they would not survive to the trip to the hospital if anyone was so inclined to take them there. Sarah walked forward and finished reloading her pistols as she did. She stopped next to the big biker who was still alive. When Sarah shot his left ankle and knee out, the bike fell over and pinned his leg under it. She squatted down and put the barrel of her freshly reloaded pistol against his right kneecap and cocked it. "Oh no, please don't. I give up," he pleaded. Sarah noticed the gasoline was dripping slowly from the gas cap and smiled. "Take the cap off the tank." "No, you're going to burn me alive." "No, I'm not. You're going to take the cap off the tank and soak your hands and sleeves in the gas. That way I know you'll stay. That way I know you'll lay still while the sheriff and the DHS agents figure out what to do with you. Okay, girly, or do I need to shoot your other knee?" The biker fumbled with the cap, trying to get it off quickly. "Don't shoot. I'll bathe in it. Just don't shoot me no more." As the gasoline flowed from the tank, the biker soaked his hands and arms in it. Once they were thoroughly soaked, Sarah turned away and went to those she shot to make sure they were not suffering because she'd missed. About a quarter way through the battle site, a badly burned biker reached out for her. When she saw the grossed hand reaching out for her, she reacted with adrenaline-driven reflexes and shot him in the head. Once she did that, the others also began to dispatch the severely wounded. About 2/3 of the way through the battle scene, reality and adrenaline withdrawal set in on her. She began to shake and get dizzy. Walt and Chris were following behind and watching her closely, making sure to be looking elsewhere at a dead backer whenever she looked at them. As she neared the end of the battle scene, she suddenly ran to the side of the road, caught herself from falling over by grabbing the highway reflector. Walt noticed that Sarah wasn't the only one that was being hit with reality of what they just did. Several other ventures were off the side of the road, already puking their guts out, expressing regrets of what they'd done, or both. Two of them that seemed completely unaffected were Sammy Harris and William Hawk. Sarah took a few breaths, then ran to the fence, grabbed hold of it, bent over, and began to vomit. She would start to stand up and bend over quickly to try to vomit some more. This continued till there was nothing left to come out. Kathy walked the last of the battle line and dispatched the last wounded biker. Then she turned and walked and joined Walt and Chris as they stood behind Sarah, waiting for her to regain some composure before moving in to comfort her. Slowly she stood up, and then stood up and turned towards them with a half-hearted smile. "I guess I'm not as tough as I thought I was." Walt put an arm around her shoulder, and Chris took up position on the other side, offering an elbow for her support as they helped her walk away from the fence. As they walked back towards the Ranger 2, Sarah was overcome with regret and began to sob heavily about being a murderer. Chris and Walt kept telling her that she wasn't a murderer, and that she was wrong about that. Several of the DHS agents were helping some of the ventures that were in the same boat as Sarah back to the barricade. Those ventures that were dealing with the battle better were helping others back as well. When they got back near the barricade where the leader of the bike was, Kathy stepped around in front of him and stopped him. She had Walt and Chris turn Sarah to see the sole surviving biker that she didn't kill. "Sarah, you're not a murderer. You're a hero. The savior of your friends and neighbors. Not one of them was hurt in this fight. Not one. That is something to be proud of. You saved life tears. Yes, you killed some of the scummiest creatures to walk the planet, but you didn't kill that. You didn't kill that one." She pointed at the biker pinned beneath this bike. "You let him live. That proves you're not a murderer. No matter what else you did what no one else could do. You distracted him and stopped him from killing your friends." Kathy took a breath and turned Sarah to face her. "Sarah, what did he say he was going to do to you? Do you remember?" "He said he was going to plug all your holes. Is that what you wanted, to be raped? Or did you do right by eliminating those scumbags and remain whole for your husband to be?" I want to be whole, but how do I live with this?" Sarah cried out. "By remembering you serve to protect the innocent. That means eliminating scum like this, so be it. Then we bear the burden proudly so others can sleep safely and children can pay safely." Agent Sal Peters walked up and interjected. "Excuse me, sir," he said to Chris. "The president just declared martial law. Presidential Security Directive AR-001. All murderers, rapists, looters, kidnappers, robbers are to be shot on sight. All other criminals are to be held and tried within 12 hours by the in-place local, state, or federal authorities. If none are available, the SAC has authority to act as judge. Sarah nodded and looked down at the leader of the bike still pinned under his motorcycle. But what do we do about him? I promised we wouldn't kill him. That's right, you promised. You have to help me now that you've won. Chris started as he tried to work around Sarah's promise. No, you didn't, Randy said as he walked up between them and the biker. You said you wouldn't shoot him or burn him. He quickly pulled out his big Bowie knife and raked it across the biker's neck. You didn't say anything about anyone else. Anyone else shooting, SHOOT, shooting, or BU, burning him, or TAK. Hang on, back up. Or a knife being taken to him. And let me hit save on that one. There we go. There we go. Boom, boom. Kathy stepped quickly over to the biker and pulled the vest he wore off of him before it got too bloody. She held it up. To Sarah and pointed it to the back of it. You see this? These are called colors. They denote which club the banker belongs to. She did quotations in the air when she said club. This club, Heaven's Devils, is one of the most vicious and violent gangs around. They rape, murder, deal drugs, guns, explosive, prostitution, and human trafficking. That means slaves. They are what is below the scum at the bottom of the barrel. We shouldn't even try to take them prisoners. They can't be rehabilitated. They won't change, and they will kill you the first chance they get after they rape and sodomize you multiple times. You see them, you kill them. That's simple. Sarah took a deep breath and sighed. I'll try to remember that. Behind her, the venture crew looked on and nodded too, when Kathy looked at them. Sarah, they're not worth the guilt. They're subhuman animals. You shouldn't feel as much guilt for killing them as you would for killing a rat. They both will eat your food and carry diseases. Only this scum will kill you and your family on purpose, laughing while they do it, while some rape you afterwards. That's how bad they are. Cindy walked up. They're all dead, Sheriff. There, Kathy said flatly. The trash has been taken out. Time to clean up and go home. Not yet, Marston said as he ran up. Didn't you guys wonder what happened to the 3 trucks that were following them? They all looked quickly down the empty highway, then back at Marston. They're hightailing it back to Cambridge. There are more bikers coming up the highway. I picked it up on the CB. They sent a scout south to set up a lookout. He reported back he nearly ran into the second bunch. He got off the road just before they could see him. He said there were well over 100 of them, and at about 30 miles from town. Where the scout is, I'm not sure, but if he's about 30 miles south of Cambridge, he should be a little south of Midvale, possibly the rest stop. Gordon is changing out the battery packs on the drone right now. You should have it back up in the air in a minute or two. Walt, look at Chris. They're going to need your Humvees of the Ma Deuces. That's not what they're for. We, Walt pointed to himself and Chris, have to keep that scumbag away from the warehouses and the command center, which means keeping them as far away as we can, better yet eliminating them from being a threat ever, Walt rebutted. Remember, we're in martial law. And if this is the same gang, Chris sighed. You're right. He grabbed his radio microphone. Load up, guys. We're going to have to stop the bigger part of the gang down in Cambridge. Donald, Walt asked, can you get that loader and clear us a path? Donald just smiled and took off running. Ventures, load up. We got more trash to take out, Sarah shouted. Kathy looked over at Joseph. Major, go. We'll be right behind you. Have Lonnie and his group come over and help Donald secure the blockade again in case some of them get biased, Kathy says. She made her way to the Ranger. Oh, hang on. Oh boy, what time? Okay. Have Lonnie, as she made her way to the Ranger too. As everyone loaded up, Donald Smith came out of his shop with a dump truck with a huge snowplow on it, pulled out of the highway to clean the trash from it. While he was doing this, the Ventures took time to reload their rifle and climb aboard the Ranger 2. Kathy looked at Cindy in the back seat and asked, how are you handling this so well? Simple. They're Gadianton robbers. They have to be stopped and aren't worth any guilty feelings. They're just varmints to be exterminated. Oh, Kathy said, wondering what Gadianton robbers were. Then over at the other Venture that seemed to be totally at ease with what he just did. And you? William Hockey replied, I've been reading books on this sort of thing for years. I've read all of Walt's book too. Like you said, they are diseased scum. And we'll try anything to kill my family. I won't let that happen. He continues to carve little divots in the buttstock of his rifle. What are you doing? Like World War II pilots used to put decals of their kills on their planes. I'm keeping track of mine so I don't forget what I did to save my family. Mark and Mary Rogers had gone up the ranch road to check on the people at Redoubt Village. They found that everyone had been busy helping Bobby Trickle's group settle in and getting the travel trailers, getting the trailers of sugar protected from the coming winter weather. Most of the bags of sugar had been moved into the 2 extra Connex cargo containers, with the rest divided up amongst the rest of the Redoubt Village families. 3 leftover pallets of sugar had been moved to the ranch house. The dry goods tanker of sugar had been placed in one of the 3 spare RV pads under the cover belt over the 2 containers. They moved the tanker into one side of the pet. They moved the tanker in one of the side pads close as they could to get one of the other close as they could to get it to one of the cargo containers. Then they took some lumber that was being stored there and boxed the tanker in with two double-sided with two double-sided walls 6 inches apart, so that the trailer was better protected from the winter weather that was coming, and to keep the moisture from getting to the sugar, causing it to clump together and then get stuck in the trailer. The rest of the pad, Bobby's son's red cab over Peterbilt sleeper parked in it, as well as one of the Jeep Cherokees. Another pad had Bobby and Marlene's 45-foot Class A Newell coach and his blue Peterbilt truck parked in it. The third pad had Mike's Greyhound 1978 Eagle Tour bus that was converted to a motorhome, a Jeep Cherokee, and his green Peterbilt truck with part of the trailer sticking out of the back. There were several extension cords running from a small generator mounted under Mike's trailer to two of the RVs in Jacob's cab over sleeper, but not the other two Peterbilt trucks. Obviously, Jacob and Terry and their two little ones were sleeping in the cab over sleeper. Mark went over to find why they were not using the power outlets provided each pad. He found Bobby and his family gathered around a couple of folding tables by his RV. "Greetings, family trickle," Mark said with a big smile as he walked up to him. "Hello, Mr. Rogers," Bobby said, and a couple of them smiled, thinking about the TV show. Mark was quick on the uptake. "Welcome to my neighborhood." They all laughed. The younger children wondered why the adults were laughing and asked why it's so funny. Mike looked at him and said, "It's from an old TV show." They still look confused, so Mark broke into song. "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?" "Oh, that brings back memories," Marlene sighed. "What can we do for you, Mr. Rogers?" "Please, it's Mark," he smiled. I was wondering why you aren't using the power outlets. Are they not working?" "Oh, they work. We just didn't feel right about using them until we could contribute more." "Stop running your generator and hook up to the outlets. The power comes from solar panels on the research center. It's basically free. Save your fuel and wear and tear in your generator." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. In the next couple of days, a group of 25 will be settling over there in the unfinished fourth turnaround. If any of them ask how much you paid, tell them they have to talk with Walt or me about that." Do not say anything about there we go. Their leader, LEAD, leader is my let's see if I can find this here. The word here, estranged sister. We don't get along, but she is family. She is still family. There we go. Got some more stuff added to it there that needed to be in there, so it doesn't need to be explained later. All righty, we're down to 3, so I think that's just the ones that usually stick all the way through, like the crew. Oh boy! All right, I think we can get the rest of it done in the last hour here. Anything else? Anything else we need to know about them? I'll let you know before they get here. As Mark went to check on the residents of the village, Mary went over to check on the fenced-off area that contained the facility where 7 of the aeroponics container units sat. These were some of the containers from the University of Washington and the horticulture department that she and Professor Howard Earp were developing them, and that they were able to move here for field testing. Other containers have been moved to the site in northern Nevada for testing. Originally, they were designed, let me put that in there, designed for use on the Mars Advanced Testing Simulator. More recently, Earthbound models for the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Interior in preparation for the asteroid passing. There were several more containers that had not had work started on them yet to make them able to produce any food. She stopped at the gate, typed in her access code, and put her finger on the scanner for second verification. The gate unlocked and she pulled it open. The facility was a cement pad that was 150 feet by 200 feet with a steel pole building with a slope steel roof on the side. Yeah. Come on, tongue-tied here, guys. Sorry. Built with a slope steel roof. The sides were open, but a tight weave chain link fence enclosed the entire pad. There was a generator and battery house behind the pole building that had its own chain link fence around it. Several of the families in the Redoubt village worked on the project at the university and had come along because they knew how important the project would be for everyone's survival. The 7 hydroponic units were lined up on one side of the pad along with the other cargo containers lined up. Sorry, I'm losing my mind here. The other cargo containers were lined up against the back ones with the sides to help provide a buffer from the winter weather. The other side of the pad where more cargo containers were. Some of these were full of parts for more aeroponic units, and some were full of nutrient solutions for the solutions. Others were empty or filled with mechanical equipment and other types of supplies. 3 of them had been converted into labs, and one was an office for record keeping. It was the latter one that Mary was proceeding to when the door opened and Bobby Carson came out. "Hey, Professor Rogers," she said in surprise. "I didn't expect to see you up here today. I'm just checking how our babies are handling everything." "They're doing okay," Bobby said, a little annoyed. The quakes shook a tray or 2 loose each time we get a good jolt or the feed lines get pinched, but other than that, they're producing great, except for the wheat, which is barely producing. but it is producing something much better than the first models did. That's for sure. How's Howard doing? Much better now that we got Helena helping out with seedlings. She's so much happier, and he's stressed out now that she's not complaining about not having anything to do. Good, good. How's everyone else doing? We're okay. We've had several of the medical personnel asking to help out. I guess they're getting a little bit of cabin fever with nothing much to do. I would be bored to tears too if I didn't have something to work on. Mary muttered. She gave what Bobby said some thought, then looked at the cargo containers at the far end of the pad. The last 4 containers are still empty, right? Yeah. Alex was going to put some of the empty nutrient tanks inside to make an aquaponics fish farm, but we don't have any empties yet. I think I know someone who can get some. Then we can put some of the others that want to do something to work. Mr. President, Cynthia said as she approached the president and group of advisors that were sounding him at the display console. The president turned around at the sound of her voice. Yes, Cynthia, what do you have for us now? The reports we got via ham radio two days ago about Mount Tesoro erupting near Cheyenne Mountain are confirmed. It's a massive caldera about 15 miles across, and yesterday, Huarfano Butte erupted, and its caldera is about 20 miles across. They're pumping out hundreds of cubic tons of ash, which is being blown eastward. She took a quick breath towards us. The flyby could not get near Cheyenne Mountain because of the ash plume blowing over it. They were able to tune into the frequency that the ham radio operator said they heard communications coming from the mountain. And one of the generals jumped in when she took a breath. General, the president snapped at him. Give her a chance to breathe, for Pete's sake. Sorry, the general replied, duly chastised. They picked up an automated transmission stating that the ventilation system was clogged with ash and they could not get the doors open. Oh my God, those poor souls, damn, came from various advisors. The transmission was date stamp 4:30 yesterday morning. It also included a list of those who died already, including Colonel Mitchell and General Snyder. The vice president is still alive but seriously injured. Why didn't you lead with that bit of information? We need to mount a rescue mission at once, one of the civilian advisors shouted. Didn't you that no one else was speaking in favor of the rescue? What? He asked. He looked around the group. The other shoes, Cynthia, the president said solemnly. There were out-of-control fires throughout the facility, giving off toxic gases, and breathable air was not expected to last more than a couple of hours. That was 32 hours ago. They're all dead by now. She turned to start to walk away. After several steps, she collapsed to the floor in tears. One of the Secret Service agents hurried to help her. Mr. President, the voice of William Daniels, the Secretary of Homeland Security, came over the speakers as he spoke from his remote site in Carlsbad Caverns National Park. With what we talked about yesterday and the possibility of that now a fact, I took for the relocating the President Pro Tem of the Senate to a special site. I've consulted with General Hale and Admiral Adams, and they have agreed to deployment of SEAL Team 3 ahead to the move to help secure the area, and some of Fourth Recon to fly in with them. They'll make sure the area stays in control. As if that needs to be done, General Tyree snickered off to the side. The president shot him a dire look when he saw that Tyree was smiling and really realized he was talking about Sheriff Rogers and his precautions. I guess you're right, Tyree, but it won't hurt to have him there. Also, Mr. President, for some reason, almost all of the cargo container towns were not installed above the 600-foot elevation mark, as requested by Sheriff Rogers. All three were washed away by the tsunamis that came up the Mississippi River Valley. Even cities up into Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois that were below the 525-foot mark were flooded and wiped out. How the hell did that happen? We're not sure. We're working with FEMA and the Department of Interior to find out why and what the loss of life is, Secretary Daniel replied. Give me updates when you have them. Sally Rogers and Thomas Michaels sat at the computer console in Walt's office at the ranch. Sally was showing her grandfather how to operate the DHS software to access satellites to see what was going on around the world. They discovered that the satellites in stationary orbit between the Earth and Sun were able to stay in their proper location for the most part, as those in geosynchronous orbit above the western United States. However, they will all have to be relocated to new positions and to compensate for the higher gravitational pull of a closer moon. They found one of the still functioning NSA satellites that was in a high traversing orbit. It was equipped with a 36-hour video recording that they were able to download. Playing back the recording at high speed, they were able to count over 236 volcanoes that were erupting worldwide. They almost missed a few because they were almost hidden by the plumes of other volcanoes. What surprised them was seeing the huge plume of Mount Desero and Herberfano Butte erupting near. Sorry, I got a owie here. Near Cheyenne Mountain. Mount Desero's caldera was about 15 miles across, and the I'm just going to call it HB from now. And the HB erupting near Cheyenne Mountain. Okay, and HB's caldera was a massive 20 miles across. They were pumping out hundreds of cubic tons of ash into the air. Each was almost as big as the Yellowstone volcano, but these volcanoes were as big as these volcanoes were, and as much ash as they were pumping out was nothing compared to the eruption in Eastern Europe and South America. The entire western coast of South America looked like a road flare pattern for closing a highway laying down. There were over 30 large volcanoes alone, not counting the others scattered across the continent. The ashfall there was 3 times that in North America. Europe, Western Asia, and Mediterranean were even worse. What they had not expected to see is that several volcanoes in Antarctica pulling up maps and other data, they did the names of the 6 volcanoes. They were starting with the most damaging to human life, Deception Island, which is an island on the South Shepherd Islands of Archipelago. I can pronounce the word. Archipelago, with one of the safest harbors in Antarctica. This island is the caldera of an ancient volcano which erupted in 1967 and 69, seriously damaging local scientific stations there. The others were Mount Melbourne, the Pleiades, Mount Takahid, Penguin Island, and Hudson Mountains. The effects of these volcanoes was already evident in the massive rivers of melted snow and ice flowing from these volcanoes. Sally called the others still at the house to come to the office. She and Thomas explained and showed what they had found. She then had them start checking checking the data archives that Walt had gathered to see if they could compile some sort of data spreadsheet to give them an idea of how much ash they could expect to reach them from Europe and the Asia volcanoes. All right, that is the end of book 1 of Against the Wind. And it's like it says, to be continued in Running Against the Wind. And book 2, Running Against the Wind, preview. Sarah eyed the 7 men facing her with an unusual calm, such as she had never experienced before. Her right hand held onto the horn of the saddle resting on her shoulder. Her left hand limped at her left side. Harrison Marston stood in the middle of the group, laughing and shaking his head slightly. "What are you going to do?" He gestured out with his right and left of his right hand. Continued, "That old pester of yours only has 6 shots, and there's 7 of us. All you'll accomplish is to get you dead." Sarah shifted her weight slightly to her right foot, picked up her left foot. "I used to watch an old movie with my dad. There was this one line from it that seems appropriate right now." As she spoke, she slid her left foot up behind her right knee and caught the leading edge of her duster with the spur and pulled it back around her and brought it up to her left hand. The main character was facing off a bunch of bad guys that just tried to kill his idol, Jack Beauregard, with a bomb. Anyways, he told them that Jack could draw and shoot his revolver 3 times before the other guy could even draw once. She took hold of the corner of the duster as she lowered her foot and brought the corner of the duster up in front of her. She tucked it into the gun belt and slid it back, catching the left side of the duster with it to expose a second revolver in a cross-draw fashion. Marston's laughter stopped and his smile faded as his eyes focused on a second gun. Then he realized that her resolve to back down. There are still more of us, and you're not fast enough to get more than one of us before we kill you. Before Sarah could utter a response. Is that right? Nope. It's an S. Response. One of Marston's men spoke up with a quivering voice. "Boss, I think she's faster than us to get most of us. bullshit. She's just a girly. Sarah didn't realize she had made the decision to draw until she heard the first shot. Her right hand let go of the saddle of the horn and dropped with unearthly speed to the ball and cap revolver hanging in the Western quick draw holster at her side. Her thumb caught the hammer of the revolver and cocked it as she drew the revolver thumb. The old revolver rolled up into firing position as her last three fingers wrapped around the smooth wooden butt grips, and her index fingers squeezed and held the trigger. The first bullet caught Marston in the Adam's apple and blew out two vertebrae from his neck as it exited. Sarah's left hand flashed across, fanning the hammer of the pistol, sending a bullet to each of the heads of the three men standing to the right of Marston's still standing body before anyone had a chance to move. The saddle was now starting to slip from Sarah's shoulder, so she tossed the revolver to her left hand she tossed the revolver to the left, where her left hand wrapped around the butt and thumb rolled over the hammer, cocking it, and her finger tied on the trigger, firing the fifth bullet into the groin of the man to the far left of Marston's now falling body, as her right hand grabbed the horn of the saddle and pulled it back up onto her shoulder. The man next to Marston was bringing the barrel of his M16 up as Sarah thumbed back the hammer and snapped off the last shot of the old ball and cap revolver. As much as she had practiced shooting left-handed, it was still a little awkward cocking the single action revolver, and as such threw her aim off a little bit to her left. As fate would have it, this was a good thing. Instead of hitting the man in the center mass, the bullet hit him in his right arm, shattering the bone, causing him to lose the grip on his weapon. The M16 fired a 3-round burst in Sarah's general direction. The first hitting the ground in front of her left boot. The second went farther to the right as the gun climbed, passing inches to the side of her knee. The third bullet went even farther from Sarah as her right hand, again in motion, drawing the second revolver from the cross draw. This was a modern reproduction of the Colt 36 caliber Navy revolver, which revolver chambered in .357 Magnum double action. The last man was the one who told Marston that he thought Sarah was fast enough to take most of them. His fear caused him to hesitate. She fired 2 shots at him, one hitting him in each shoulder joint, making his arms useless and knocking him to the ground. Sarah spun the revolver as she quickly placed it back in its holster and reached up and caught the saddle horn before it slipped completely from the shoulder. As she started walking towards Marston's life-ebbing body, she reached across her body and dropped the old ball and cap into the holster hanging at her right hip. When she was standing over Marston, she gave his head a nudge with the toe of her boot, and his eyes popped open in shock. I got all 7 of you. I have two of your wounded men still alive to question. Your spine has been severed, so that's why you can't move, and you're slowly drowning in your own blood. She smiled wickedly at him. And the group you sent to take out Walton, the DHS agents, well, they ran into a Marine sniper team while they were trying to set up for their attack. There were no survivors. Neither were there any survivors from any of the groups you sent onto Walt's ranch. You see, all of your perverted plans have been stopped, and just to make sure, I will question the 2 men I wounded here. Sarah pulled out a fish fillet knife. Hang on. From behind her. And when I start cutting off things they really want, they will tell me everything. Then I will go after your families and friends just to make sure I got all the information I need. Marston's eyes widened in fear and surprise as he tried to say no without any success. Then I will take all their weapons away from them and let everyone know that they are defenseless. I am sure there are more than a few of those you have stepped on who would love to pay them a visit. Sarah spat in Marston's face and turned and walked over to the 2 wounded men. Who wants to play? Let's make a deal, she said with an evil grin that sent chills down the 2 wounded men's spines. I do came. Hang on here. Came a voice from behind her. Sarah spun around, and all she could see was a blurry shadow figure, and everything went blank. The next thing knew, Sarah was sitting up in bed in a cold sweat. Just that damn dream again, she muttered and laid back down. All right, that is the coming attractions for Book 2. However, we're not going to go to Book 2 right away. We're going to switch over to The Scout and the Ninja, Book 1, A Scout is Trustworthy, starting tomorrow morning. And once again, I'm going to say why is because in Book 2 of Running Against the Wind, there is a crossover group from the Scout and the Ninja series, and they cross over, and you need to get the background on them before I start reading about them, so you know what's going on. All right, so that's it for now. I'm going to wrap it up here, and yeah, so it'll be so tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock will be Book 1 of Scout and the Ninja, A Scout is Trustworthy, Chapter 1. Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning will be Chapter 2. 2 o'clock. Oh, sorry. Those were mountain time. So 11 o'clock Eastern tomorrow morning and Saturday morning. 2 o'clock Eastern time is Shadow Scout Swedes live with him. I'll be streaming it as well. And then 8 p.m. is the Survival Saturday. And the topic for that is, I'm trying to remember. After the 6,000 year Earth tilt, what are your plans? So, and then Monday tonight on Camp Patton Family Compound at 8 p.m. Eastern is the Home Garden Store is the topic. And Monday on Camp Patton is canning meal bases. So you're canning the different bases that can be used for multiple meals. Tactical Tuesday, physical training, do what you can. And also on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc., 11 o'clock Eastern, we'll be going through the different chapters of A Scout is the Scout and the Ninja series. Scout is Trustworthy, and that's what's going to be going on then. All right, guys? So, and Tammy says, I hate cliffhangers. Oh, there's a lot more cliffhangers. All right, guys, we will see you tomorrow. I will see you tonight on Camp Patton and tomorrow morning back here on Gray Man Prepping. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you then.